Have you ever felt a moment where your mind becomes louder than your life, where even a simple thought turns into a wave that keeps rising until it quietly takes over your peace? In this audiobook, we will uncover why overthinking grows inside you and how gentle awareness can slowly clear the noise. Chapter 1. Understanding the Roots of Overthinking. When you pause and truly listen within, you notice that overthinking never begins with intensity. It begins with something small, a feeling you didn't express, a thought you didn't understand, a worry you pushed aside, hoping it would disappear on its own. These quiet pieces gather together, forming a pattern that slowly tightens around your mind. As this chapter begins, imagine letting your awareness soften, because understanding yourself is the first step toward finding calm. Sometimes your mind holds on to moments that once hurt you. Even after those events pass, the emotional echo stays. Your thoughts revisit those scenes, trying to protect you from anything similar. But the more your mind repeats the past, the more the present becomes unclear. Overthinking grows in these repeated echoes, turning simple concerns into heavy possibilities. Seeing this pattern helps you understand why your mind feels crowded, even when your life seems stable. There are times when you want every choice to be perfect. You replay conversations, you rewrite moments in your head, you worry about outcomes that haven't even begun to form. You believe thinking more will keep you safe, but clarity doesn't appear through force. It appears through space. A small pause, a softer breath, a moment of stepping back. These simple acts can reveal answers that overthinking hides. Another deep root appears when you carry emotions alone. When you hold your feelings quietly, the silence becomes heavy. Without expression, the mind begins to process everything internally, often stretching simple emotions into loops that feel endless. Overthinking grows strongest when your heart remains unheard. Listening gently to yourself begins to loosen that inner weight and reminds you that your feelings deserve attention. Picture a room still dark before sunrise. Slowly, soft light enters. Not enough to erase every shadow, but enough to help you see what's around you without fear. That gentle light is awareness. It doesn't rush you, it simply shows you what your mind has been carrying. Awareness is what begins to break the cycle of overthinking, giving your thoughts space to settle and your emotions room to breathe. As you continue, remember that the mind becomes clear when you choose understanding over pressure. In the next part, we will explore the patterns that keep your thoughts returning and how gentle shifts can help you rebuild a calmer inner space. Overthinking often deepens when small thoughts stretch beyond their original shape. A simple idea grows into a chain, and that chain becomes a story that feels heavier than reality. When the mind moves too fast, you begin reacting to imagined moments as if they already exist. This quiet shift creates tension inside you, making ordinary decisions feel overwhelming. Seeing this pattern helps you understand how easily the mind can drift when it has no clear direction. There are times when you replay future possibilities long before life brings anything to you. You rehearse conversations, plan reactions, and picture outcomes with the hope of staying safe. But this habit drains your energy. The mind tries to protect you, yet ends up creating pressure you never needed. Life rarely follows the scripts you write in your head. It unfolds naturally, one moment at a time, and clarity rises when you let the moment lead instead of fear. Another pattern appears when your thoughts amplify small signals. A brief silence from someone becomes a sign of disapproval. A delay in response feels like rejection. A minor mistake turns into a reflection of your worth. These interpretations are not facts. They are emotional echoes shaped by past hurts. When you notice this, you begin separating feelings from truth, and suddenly your mind becomes lighter. Overthinking also grows when you hold responsibility for things that are not in your control. You try to manage how others feel, how they might respond, and how they might interpret your actions. This pressure slowly fills your mind until even small decisions feel difficult. Carrying what isn't yours creates a cycle that tightens around your peace. Releasing that weight begins when you remind yourself that you cannot carry every emotion around you. There are moments when your inner voice becomes unusually harsh. You question your progress, doubt your choices, and criticize yourself for things you handled with your best effort. This voice can cloud your clarity, making you forget your growth and strength. Observing this voice with gentleness weakens its grip. It allows you to see that self-doubt is not truth. It is only a signal asking for understanding. Imagine looking at calm water under soft light. On the surface, everything appears still, but beneath it, tiny movements shift quietly. Your mind behaves in the same way. Even on peaceful days, subtle thoughts move within you, shaping your mood. Becoming aware of these small currents gives you the ability to guide your mind rather than being carried by it. This awareness is the beginning of emotional clarity. It doesn't require force. It only needs honesty and presence. The more gently you observe your thoughts, the more space your mind gains. And in that space, calmness begins to form again, almost naturally. As this part ends, the next chapter will guide you into understanding how overthinking affects your body, your emotions, and your sense of inner balance. Chapter 2. How overthinking affects the body. Overthinking doesn't stay trapped in the mind. It slowly spreads into the body, shaping how you breathe, how you hold yourself, and how you respond to the world around you. These effects appear quietly at first, as small tensions that feel ordinary, yet they reveal how deeply your inner thoughts influence your physical state. Sometimes you feel a heaviness in your shoulders without any clear cause. Your jaw tightens even when nothing is wrong. Your breath becomes shallow, not because you're tired, but because your thoughts are moving faster than your body can follow. These subtle reactions show how closely the mind and body are connected. When your thoughts rush, your body prepares as if something stressful is happening. There are moments when your stomach feels unsettled. You lose appetite or crave comfort, even when you're not hungry. This discomfort isn't about food. It's about emotional pressure. Overthinking activates the body's stress response, sending signals that something needs attention. Your body tries to protect you, but the constant alertness becomes draining over time. Sleep is another place where the effects become clear. You lie down tired, but your mind stays awake. Thoughts you ignored during the day rise again at night. You shift, turn, and wait for calm, yet your body remains alert. This broken rhythm weakens your energy, making the next day feel heavier than it should. Rest becomes difficult because your thoughts refuse to slow. Your muscles carry a noticeable part of this weight. A tight neck, a stiff back, restless hands. These are not random reactions. They are physical reflections of mental pressure. When the mind feels crowded, the body absorbs that tension, creating discomfort you can't always explain. Even your heartbeat responds to your thoughts. It speeds up during worry, steadies when relief comes, and feels unbalanced when stress mixes with uncertainty. This rhythm reveals how emotions shift inside you. The heart speaks the language of the mind, even when you remain silent. Overthinking also affects your ability to relax. You try to rest, but your body stays ready, as if expecting something to go wrong. This happens when the mind teaches the body to stay alert for too long. The cycle becomes automatic. Awareness is the first step in breaking it, recognizing that this state doesn't reflect danger, only mental overload. Your body is always communicating. A tight chest, a shallow breath, a tense jaw. Each one is a message asking you to slow down. These signals are not weaknesses, they are guidance. When you listen to them, your body begins to soften and your mind finds room to breathe again. As this part ends, the next section will explore how overthinking influences your emotions and how you can regain balance from within. Emotions react quickly to the noise created by constant thinking. When your thoughts keep circling, your feelings begin to follow the same loop. A small concern becomes a heavy mood, and a simple moment starts feeling complicated. Overthinking blurs the line between real emotion and imagined fear, making it hard to understand what you truly feel. Sometimes your mood shifts without a clear reason. You feel tense or unsettled, even when nothing stressful is happening around you. This happens because your mind is processing too many thoughts at once. Each thought carries a small emotional weight, and when these weights pile up, the heart struggles to handle them. This doesn't mean you are weak. It simply means your emotional space is overloaded. There are moments when a small issue triggers a bigger feeling. A short silence feels like rejection. A late reply feels like disinterest. A small mistake feels like failure. These reactions come from the stories created by your mind, not the reality in front of you. Overthinking turns small signals into strong emotions, and suddenly your heart responds to something that never actually happened. Self-doubt also grows in this environment. You question your decisions more than needed. You compare yourself to others even when there is no reason. You imagine negative outcomes even when things are going well. This doubt slowly shapes your emotional tone, making confidence feel distant. But when you understand this pattern, you see that doubt is not truth. It is only a result of mental fatigue. Emotional exhaustion is another effect of overthinking. You feel drained, even without physical effort, because your mind has been working too hard. This tiredness affects your patience and your ability to stay calm. Small triggers feel bigger because your emotional space is already full. Recognizing this helps you pause before reacting, giving yourself a bit of space to breathe. Sometimes your feelings attach themselves to imagined futures. You feel anxious about events that haven't occurred, sad about possibilities that may never happen, or unsettled by outcomes your mind created. These emotions feel real because they grow inside you, but they are not based on the present moment. They come from fear, not reality. Overthinking also makes it harder to feel positive emotions deeply. Happiness feels brief. Peace feels fragile. Even good moments pass quickly because the mind is waiting for the next concern. When you slow your thoughts, positive feelings naturally begin to stay longer. Your heart needs quiet to recognize joy, just as it needs space to understand fear. Your emotions move according to the stories your mind creates. When your thoughts soften, your feelings begin to settle. Calm thinking creates calm emotions. With time, your emotional world becomes lighter and more balanced. As this part ends, the next section will explore how overthinking affects your decisions and daily actions. Chapter 3: Overthinking and Your Decisions. Decision-making becomes complicated when your mind carries too many thoughts. Even simple choices begin to feel heavy because every option comes with imagined outcomes, imagined risks, and imagined reactions. Overthinking turns clarity into confusion, making it difficult to trust your own judgment. Sometimes you stand between two choices and feel stuck, not because the decision is difficult, but because your mind is trying to predict every possible result. You think of what could go wrong, what others might think, and how things might unfold. This constant calculation slows your ability to move forward. The weight you feel is not from the decision itself, but from the pressure created by your thoughts. There are moments when you delay small choices. You hesitate with messages, postpone tasks, or overanalyze your plans. This hesitation often comes from fear of choosing imperfectly. Your mind wants assurance, but no decision can guarantee perfection. When you realize this, you understand why indecision grows even in simple situations. It is not the choice. It is the fear behind the choice. Overthinking also pushes you to seek reassurance. You ask for opinions again and again, hoping someone will give you the certainty your mind is missing. But reassurance only works for a moment. Soon the doubt returns, and you begin the cycle again. This pattern reveals how deeply overthinking affects your confidence. It convinces you that others know better, even when your own intuition is quietly guiding you. Sometimes your mind imagines consequences far beyond reality. You picture scenarios that never occur, and these imagined outcomes influence your decisions more than the actual situation. This leads to decisions driven by fear rather than clarity. When you notice this pattern, you begin separating possibility from truth, and suddenly the weight of choice becomes lighter. Decision fatigue is another effect that grows silently. When your mind handles too many thoughts, even small decisions feel tiring. You feel drained before you even act. This fatigue is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your mental space is overloaded. Reducing the number of thoughts, not the number of decisions, restores your inner energy. Overthinking also makes you question your choices after you make them. You replay conversations, rethink responses, and wonder if you could have done better. This habit steals your peace and keeps your mind stuck in the past. But when you remind yourself that every choice was made with the understanding you had at the time, the pressure slowly fades. Healthy decisions don't come from perfect thinking. They come from calm thinking. When your mind slows, you start hearing your own clarity again. You begin trusting small steps. You begin trusting yourself. As this part ends, the next section will explore how overthinking influences your daily behavior and the way you move through your routine. Overthinking slowly changes the way you move through your day. Simple actions feel heavier because your mind carries too many thoughts in the background. Even small tasks take extra time, not due to difficulty, but because your attention is split between the present moment and the noise inside your head. Sometimes you pause before starting a basic task. You think about how it might unfold, what could interrupt you, and what you should prepare for. This mental loop creates hesitation that looks like procrastination, but it is your mind trying to feel safe before taking action. The pause is not laziness, it is the weight of overthinking. There are moments when you complete tasks without truly being there. Your hands move, yet your thoughts wander. You replay old conversations or imagine future problems while doing something simple. This divided focus makes easy work feel draining. You become tired not from effort, but from the thoughts running beside it. Overthinking also changes how you speak. You choose your words carefully, then review them in your mind, then adjust them again. You hold back your thoughts because you fear being misunderstood. Even normal conversations feel tense when you are overthinking every detail. The moment becomes smaller than the noise around it. Your physical pace shifts too. Some days you move quickly, trying to keep up with your thoughts. Other days you slow down, weighed down by inner pressure. Your body mirrors your mental state, switching between restlessness and fatigue. This inconsistency makes it hard to settle into a steady routine. Relationships are affected as well. You read too deeply into simple messages. You assume hidden meanings. You replay interactions and judge yourself more than necessary. Most of this pressure comes from imagined interpretations, not actual problems. The mind builds stories and your emotions respond to them. You may also avoid tasks you used to enjoy. When your mind feels crowded, even relaxing activities seem demanding. You delay them, not because you don't care, but because you lack mental space to begin. This avoidance brings frustration, and frustration slowly turns into guilt. That guilt then feeds more overthinking. Even rest becomes challenging. You sit down, but your mind stays active. Thoughts of unfinished tasks or future concerns keep you alert when your body wants to relax. This mismatch creates tension that stays with you throughout the day. Rest is not possible when the mind refuses to slow. The truth is simple. Your daily behavior doesn't change because you are weak. It changes because your mind has been overloaded for too long. When you recognize this, small moments begin to soften. Tasks feel lighter, conversations feel easier, and your routine slowly returns to a calmer rhythm. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 4 and explore the deeper fears that silently fuel overthinking. Chapter 4. The hidden fears behind overthinking. Overthinking often begins with quiet fears that stay in the background. These fears do not speak loudly, yet they guide your reactions, shape your thoughts, and influence how you see everyday situations. When you start noticing these hidden fears, your mind becomes easier to understand, and the intensity inside begins to settle. One common fear is the fear of making mistakes. You want to choose correctly, avoid regret, and handle situations with care. This pressure makes simple decisions feel heavier than they are. You think through every detail, hoping to stay safe from any wrong step. But mistakes are a natural part of growth. They teach you far more than constant hesitation ever can. Another fear is the fear of judgment. You think about how others might view you, how they may interpret your words, and whether they will approve of your choices. This fear makes you adjust yourself in ways you don't always notice. You hold back ideas, soften your expression, or remain quiet to avoid discomfort. Most of the pressure doesn't come from people. It comes from the possibilities your mind creates. There is also the fear of uncertainty. You want to know what will happen, how things will unfold, and whether the future will stay steady. When life feels unclear, your thoughts rush to fill the empty space with imagined outcomes. These possibilities feel real because they rise from worry, but they pull you away from the calm that comes from accepting the moment as it is. A deeper fear is the fear of not being enough. You question your worth, compare yourself with others, and assume they handle life better. This belief creates inner pressure that grows quietly. It makes you doubt your progress and overlook your strengths. Overthinking grows quickly when your self-view becomes unsure. Sometimes the fear is losing control. You want life to stay steady, predictable, and manageable. When something unexpected appears, your mind reacts fast, trying to protect you from discomfort. But this reaction can turn small concerns into larger ones. Your thoughts begin preparing for problems that may never exist. Some fears come from past pain. Difficult moments leave emotional marks, and your mind remembers them even after time passes. When something reminds you of that old feeling, your thoughts move into protection mode. This makes you react strongly, even when the present moment is safe. These fears do not make you weak. They show that you feel deeply and that you want to move carefully through life. When you acknowledge these fears, your thoughts begin to loosen. Awareness brings calm, and naming the fear reduces its influence. When you understand the fear behind a thought, the thought becomes easier to guide. You respond with clarity instead of reacting from tension. You begin seeing the moment instead of the worry connected to it. Fear begins to lose its grip the moment you acknowledge it. When you stop avoiding what scares you and instead look at it gently, something softens inside. The fear remains, but it no longer controls your thoughts. It becomes clearer, more understandable, and far less overwhelming. This quiet clarity is the first step toward inner strength. Sometimes fear hides behind your thoughts, shaping them without being noticed. You feel tension, pressure, or uncertainty, but you don't see the root. When you pause and look deeper, you realize that many thoughts are simply reactions to old emotions. This awareness doesn't erase fear, but it keeps it from growing in the dark. When fear is seen, it becomes lighter. Fear often pushes your mind to overthink because it tries to protect you. It imagines possibilities to keep you safe, but the protection feels heavy instead of comforting. When you recognize that fear is trying to help, your inner resistance decreases. You begin seeing fear as a messenger, not an enemy. This shift in perspective makes your thoughts calmer. Facing fear doesn't require force. It requires honesty. You admit what bothers you. You admit what feels uncertain. You admit where you feel vulnerable. This honesty removes the silent pressure of pretending to be stronger than you feel. Strength grows when you allow your real emotions to exist without hiding them. When you accept fear, the mind stops fighting itself. Thoughts become softer. You breathe more easily. You find space inside that wasn't there before. Fear loses its power because it no longer needs to be pushed away. It becomes just another feeling you can sit with. Another part of building inner strength is understanding what fear protects. Some fears guard your heart from old wounds. Some guard your identity from doubt. Some guard your comfort from change. When you look at your fear with compassion, you see its intention. It is trying to keep you safe in the only way it knows. Knowing this allows you to respond calmly rather than react automatically. Fear becomes smaller when you return your attention to the present moment. Most fears grow in imagined futures or past memories. But the present is simpler. It asks for one breath, one choice, one step. When you stay with the moment in front of you, fear loses the room it needs to expand. You also build strength by remembering what you've already faced. You have handled moments you once feared. You have survived challenges you never thought you could. These memories remind you that you are stronger than your thoughts suggest. Fear feels large only when you forget your own resilience. Inner strength grows quietly. It grows each time you understand your fear. It grows each time you choose calm over panic. This gentle strength is what begins to clear the noise within. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 5 and explore how overthinking affects relationships and emotional connection. Chapter 5. How overthinking affects relationships. Overthinking slowly changes how you connect with people. It affects how you listen, how you respond, and how you understand simple moments. Even when things are normal, your mind adds meanings that were never there. These added meanings make relationships feel heavier than they truly are. Sometimes a short reply feels like distance. A delayed message feels like disappointment. A neutral tone feels like irritation. Your mind fills the blanks with worry, and those worries feel real because they come with emotion, not evidence. Most of the pressure comes from your thoughts, not the person in front of you. Overthinking can also make you carry emotions that aren't yours. You think about how someone might react, how they might interpret your words, or whether they felt hurt. You adjust yourself again and again, trying to keep everything smooth. This effort comes from care, but it quietly drains your energy. You feel tired without knowing why. There are moments when you stay silent, even when something matters. You avoid expressing your needs because you fear conflict or rejection. You soften your feelings so you don't seem demanding. This silence creates distance, not safety. The relationship suffers not from lack of love, but from the weight of unspoken truth. Overthinking affects your confidence as well. You question your value in someone's life. You wonder if you are enough. You compare yourself with others who seem more confident or expressive. These comparisons widen the gap between how things are and how they feel inside your mind. Sometimes you replay conversations repeatedly. You think about your words, your tone, and the smallest details. You look for mistakes that the other person never noticed. This loop keeps you stuck in moments that have already passed. Instead of peace, you stay in analysis. Fear can also create expectations. You expect rejection before it happens. You expect disappointment before any sign appears. You expect distance even when the person is close. These expectations build walls that make connection harder. You react to possibilities instead of the present moment. Overthinking also makes you apologize too much. You say sorry to avoid discomfort. You take blame to keep peace. You try to protect the relationship by carrying more responsibility than you should. This imbalance slowly exhausts your heart. But the problem isn't your worth. The problem is the pressure inside your thoughts. Your mind tries to protect you by imagining situations, but those situations make connection harder. When you see this pattern, the pressure softens. You realize you don't need to analyze every moment to be safe. Relationships grow when you allow conversations to be simple, when you trust your intention instead of fear, when you speak honestly without filtering every word. Calm connections come from calm thinking, not perfect behavior. Healthy relationships grow when your mind becomes calmer. When thoughts slow down, you connect more naturally. You speak clearly, listen openly, and express yourself without fear. Overthinking doesn't vanish, but it stops controlling the way you relate to others. One helpful step is honest communication. Instead of assuming what someone feels, you share your own feelings gently. You say what matters without overfiltering your words. This clarity removes guesswork and reduces the pressure your mind creates. People feel closer when they understand you directly. Another step is giving space to moments that feel unclear. When something bothers you, you pause. You breathe and let the feeling settle before reacting. This small pause keeps you from replying through fear or imagination. Many misunderstandings shrink when you allow silence to do its work. Boundaries also make relationships calmer. Boundaries are not distance, they are healthy limits. They remind you that you are not responsible for everyone's emotions. When you protect your energy, your mind relaxes. You stop absorbing stress that isn't yours, and the connection becomes more balanced. Trust is another important part. Trust means letting the moment unfold without expecting the worst. You stop creating problems that don't exist. When you trust the person and trust yourself, your thoughts stay grounded. Trust brings stability, and stability softens overthinking. Allowing imperfection also strengthens the bond. Not every conversation will be smooth. Not every response will be perfect. The other person won't always understand your needs instantly. Accepting this removes pressure from both sides. When imperfection feels safe, connection grows naturally. Listening with presence is another powerful habit. When you listen without analyzing tone or searching for hidden meanings, communication becomes easier. You hear the person, not your fears. Presence creates closeness without effort. Emotional honesty builds deeper connection. When something hurts you, you express it calmly. When you need support, you ask directly. When something feels good, you say it openly. This honesty clears the silence that overthinking creates. It builds trust and warmth. Taking care of your inner world also improves relationships. When you calm your mind, your reactions become softer. You speak with steadiness instead of tension. You respond instead of panicking. This emotional stability makes people feel safe around you. Healthy relationships don't require perfection. They need consistency, honesty, and calm effort. When you stop overthinking every detail, you begin to enjoy the connection. You let moments be simple. You let people be human. You let yourself breathe. As this part ends, the next chapter will guide you into simple grounding practices to quiet the mind and reduce daily mental noise. Chapter 6. Simple Grounding Practices. Grounding brings your mind back into the present moment. It slows the rush of thoughts and gives your body a sense of stability. When you ground yourself, overthinking loses the space it needs to grow. The mind becomes clearer because it finally receives a moment of rest. One of the simplest grounding tools is mindful breathing. You take a slow breath in, then release it gently. You focus on the air entering your chest and leaving your body. This simple act signals your mind to pause. Each breath becomes a reminder that the present moment is steady, even if your thoughts are not. Another helpful practice is feeling your physical surroundings. You notice your feet touching the floor, the weight of your hands, or the temperature of the room. These small details bring your attention away from imagined futures and back into the real world. Your mind starts to slow because it can only focus on what is in front of you. Grounding can also happen through movement. A short walk, stretching your shoulders, or placing your hand on your chest can shift your focus instantly. Movement breaks the loop of thoughts by giving your mind a simple, physical task. It doesn't need to be big. Even a few slow steps can bring you back to ease. Another technique is naming what you see around you. You look at the shapes, colors, and objects close to you. You notice them without judgment. This practice pulls your mind out of internal noise and anchors you in reality. The moment becomes clearer because you're observing instead of thinking. Touch can also calm the mind. Holding a warm cup, touching a textured object, or resting your hand on a soft surface gives your senses something gentle to focus on. Sensory grounding works quickly because the body responds faster than thought. Your mind follows the signal of safety. Grounding also involves reconnecting with your breath when emotions rise. Instead of resisting the feeling, you pause and acknowledge it. You let it pass like a wave, not a wall. This soft acceptance reduces the pressure inside and helps you stay balanced, even when thoughts try to speed up. Another quiet grounding practice is noticing sounds. You listen to the subtle noises around you, the hum of a fan, distant traffic, a soft breeze. You don't judge the sounds, you simply let them exist. This shifts your attention outward and reduces the intensity of inner noise. Grounding is not about escaping your thoughts. It is about giving your mind a safe place to land. When you practice grounding, clarity grows naturally. Your thoughts become lighter, your body loosens, and your emotions settle. As this part ends, the next section will continue Chapter 6 and share more grounding methods that help calm the mind even during stressful moments. Grounding becomes more powerful when you learn simple ways to bring your mind back without force. These practices are gentle, steady, and easy to use in daily life. They remind your thoughts that the present moment is safe and that you don't need to solve everything at once. One helpful technique is the 1-minute pause. You stop whatever you're doing and focus only on your breath for 60 seconds. No fixing, no controlling, just breathing. This short pause resets your mind. It breaks the momentum of rushing thoughts and gives your body a sense of calm. Another grounding method is noticing temperature. You feel the coolness of air on your skin or the warmth of your hands. You let your attention rest on these small sensations. When you focus on temperature, your mind shifts away from imagined problems and comes back to the present. You can also ground yourself through slow, deliberate movement. You lift your shoulders, roll them back, or stretch your fingers gently. These tiny actions remind your nervous system that you are safe. Movement brings your awareness into your body and away from mental tension. A simple visual grounding method is focusing on one object in front of you. It could be a cup, a plant, or even a piece of fabric. You look at its shape, color, and texture. You let your eyes rest on it. This quiet focus pulls your attention out of your inner noise and places it on something real. Writing can also ground your thoughts. You don't write full sentences, just a few words describing how you feel. This small act releases pressure. Thoughts that were tangled inside you become clearer once written. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is space. Another practice is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. You notice 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. This sensory reset brings your attention fully into the present. It is one of the quickest ways to calm an overwhelmed mind. Grounding also deepens when you use gentle self-talk. You tell yourself, "I'm here," or "I'm safe," or "this moment is steady." These simple phrases reduce the emotional noise your mind creates. They remind you that you don't need to rush into worry. Nature is another powerful grounding tool. Even a short moment outside can steady your mind. The sky, the air, the trees, each one brings your focus back to something larger and calmer than your thoughts. Nature naturally slows inner tension. Grounding works because it gives your mind something real to hold on to. It shifts your attention from thoughts to sensations, from fear to presence, from pressure to clarity. With practice, grounding becomes a quiet strength you carry everywhere. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 7 and explore how to break repetitive thought loops gently and consistently. Chapter 7. Breaking repetitive thought loops. Repetitive thoughts feel like a wheel that never stops spinning. The same worry, the same memory, or the same fear keeps returning, even when you don't want to think about it. These loops form quietly. At first they feel harmless, but soon they begin to shape your mood, your focus, and your sense of peace. Breaking these loops requires gentleness, not force. One effective step is noticing the moment the loop begins. You don't try to stop the thought. You simply recognize it. You say to yourself, "This is the loop starting." This awareness weakens its power. Most loops continue because you enter them without noticing. When you notice, you interrupt the automatic pattern. Another helpful method is shifting your attention with intention. You choose one simple activity, a small task, a slow breath, a gentle movement, and allow your mind to focus on it. You're not avoiding the thought. You're guiding your attention toward something steady. Loops lose strength when your focus has somewhere else to rest. You can also break loops by questioning them softly. You ask yourself, "Is this thought true?" Or, "Is this happening right now?" Most loops are built on fear, not facts. When you question them gently, they lose the certainty they had a moment ago. You start seeing the difference between real concern and imagined pressure. Another practice is visual grounding. You imagine placing the repetitive thought into a small box. You close the lid gently. You set it aside, knowing you can return later if needed. This mental image gives your mind a sense of control without fighting the thought. It creates space inside you. Slow breathing also interrupts repetitive patterns. When you breathe deeply, your nervous system shifts out of stress mode. The loop loses the intensity that keeps it alive. The breath becomes a reminder that you are here, and the thought is just a thought. You can also redirect the loop by naming it. You say, "This is worry," or "This is fear," or "This is memory." Naming the thought removes its emotional weight. It becomes something you observe rather than something you feel trapped inside. Observation turns the loop into a temporary experience instead of an endless cycle. Another method is gentle distraction. You choose something calming to engage your senses. A soft sound, a warm drink, a simple physical movement. Loops can't survive long when your attention is grounded in something real. Breaking loops also involves acceptance. You allow the thought to be there without resisting it. Resistance makes loops stronger. Acceptance lowers their force. When you accept a thought, it passes faster because it no longer has to fight for space. Repetitive loops don't disappear overnight. They fade slowly as you build awareness and practice calm interruption. With time, the loops become weaker, shorter, and less frequent. You begin to feel more in control of your inner world. Once you break a repetitive loop, the next step is teaching your mind a calmer pattern. The mind needs something steady to follow, otherwise it returns to the old cycle. Healthy thoughts don't appear suddenly. They grow through small, gentle shifts that guide your attention toward balance. One simple method is choosing a replacement thought. When a loop appears, you repeat a short, calming line. Something like, "I choose calm," or "This moment is enough." These lines don't deny reality. They redirect your attention towards stability. With repetition, your mind learns to lean on these softer thoughts instead of fear. Another helpful step is focusing on what you can control. Loops grow from uncertainty. When you ask yourself, "What can I do right now?" the mind receives a clear direction. A small action becomes an anchor, reducing the space where overthinking grows. You can also shift patterns through gentle gratitude. You notice one small thing that brings comfort, a sound, a moment, or a small success. Gratitude doesn't erase your worries, but it balances your focus. It reminds your mind that not everything is overwhelming. Visual redirection helps as well. Instead of imagining the worst, you picture a calmer version of the moment. Not a perfect one, just a steady one. This soft image reduces fear and teaches the mind that situations can unfold without tension. Self-compassion also reshapes thought patterns. You speak to yourself with the tone you reserve for someone you care about. Instead of saying, "I should be better," you say, "I'm learning." This gentler approach lowers the pressure that fuels loops. Healthy routines support new thought patterns too. A few simple actions, deep breathing, a short walk, or writing a single line, signal your mind to slow down. The more consistent the routine, the easier it becomes to interrupt unhelpful thoughts. Another step is understanding your triggers. You observe what usually begins the loop. Maybe it's silence, uncertainty, or an old memory. When you recognize the trigger, the loop feels predictable instead of overwhelming. Predictability creates control. Perspective also weakens loops. You ask yourself, "Will this matter later?" Or, "Is this worth my energy?" Many repetitive thoughts shrink when seen through time. Distance reduces intensity. Replacing loops is not about forcing positivity. It is about offering your mind a calmer path. Every time you choose a healthier thought, you build a new pattern. With practice, these patterns become natural, and the old loops lose their strength. Your sensitivity doesn't disappear, it becomes more balanced. You respond with clarity instead of panic. Your inner world becomes steadier, and your thoughts begin supporting your peace instead of disrupting it. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 8 and explore long-term habits that protect your mind from returning to old patterns. Chapter 8. Building long-term mental clarity. Long-term mental clarity grows through small, steady habits. It's not about controlling every thought. It's about creating a lifestyle that supports calmness. When your habits become gentle and consistent, your mind learns to stay balanced even when life becomes demanding. One helpful habit is starting your day slowly. You take a few calm breaths before checking your phone or thinking about tasks. This short pause sets a clear tone. It tells your mind that the day doesn't need to begin in a rush. A calm start reduces the pressure that usually triggers overthinking. Another important habit is keeping your environment simple. A clean space creates a calm mind. When your surroundings are clear, your thoughts feel lighter. You don't need perfection, just enough order to help your mind breathe. Even small changes make a noticeable difference. Daily reflection is another way to build clarity. At the end of the day, you take a moment to notice what felt good and what felt heavy. You don't judge yourself, you observe. This gentle reflection helps you understand your emotional rhythm. Over time, you learn which situations drain you and which moments support you. Setting limits on mental input also protects your clarity. Too much information overwhelms the mind. You reduce unnecessary noise by limiting constant scrolling, repeated checking, or exposure to stress-heavy content. Your mind becomes calmer when it isn't flooded with signals. Long-term clarity also strengthens through intentional breaks. Even a 2-minute pause during the day resets your energy. These small rests prevent your mind from reaching overload. You stay grounded because you never let the pressure build too high. Another essential habit is speaking kindly to yourself. Self-talk becomes the foundation of emotional stability. When you treat yourself with respect, your thoughts stop turning against you. Simple lines like, "I'm trying," or "I'm learning," build quiet strength inside you. You can also create clarity by choosing a few non-negotiable routines. It could be drinking water mindfully, stretching your shoulders, or stepping outside for a moment of fresh air. These tiny routines remind your mind that safety and calmness are always available. Learning to let go is another powerful practice. You allow thoughts to pass instead of holding them tightly. You accept that not everything needs an answer today. This soft acceptance creates mental space and reduces the grip of overthinking. Long-term clarity grows when you choose balance over perfection. You don't rush your progress. You don't force calmness. You build it slowly through choices that support peace. These small steps change the way your mind responds to stress. Over time, your thoughts become steadier. Your emotions feel smoother. Your reactions become gentler. Clarity becomes a natural part of you, not something you chase, but something you live. Mental clarity is not built in a single moment. It grows quietly through awareness, patience, and consistency. The deeper you understand your mind, the easier it becomes to stay steady during stressful times. Calmness is a practice, not a destination. One helpful habit is emotional check-ins. A few times a day you ask yourself, "What am I feeling right now?" This small question reconnects you with the present. You don't analyze the feeling, you simply notice it. Awareness prevents emotions from turning into hidden tension. The more you check in, the less your thoughts need to shout for attention. Another practice is simplifying your inner dialogue. You reduce dramatic words, soften self-criticism, and speak to yourself like someone you care about. This change reshapes the tone of your thoughts. A kind voice inside naturally brings stability outside. Your mind starts mirroring the calm you give it. You can also support mental clarity by creating a pause space. It could be a chair by a window, a few steps outside, or a quiet corner. Whenever your mind feels crowded, you return there for a minute of stillness. This space trains your brain to associate physical quiet with mental calm. Over time, that calm becomes easier to access anywhere. Movement also clears mental fog. A short walk, slow stretching, or steady breathing breaks the loop of sitting with tension. Movement tells your body that stress doesn't need to stay trapped. When the body relaxes, the mind follows naturally. Even a few mindful steps can reset your focus. Limiting multitasking is another key. Doing one thing at a time might feel slow, but it builds clarity. When your attention is divided, thoughts multiply. Focusing on a single task keeps your energy centered and prevents overthinking from sneaking in through distraction. Another deep habit is regular digital silence. You disconnect from screens for a while each day. No messages, no scrolling, just stillness. This silence refreshes your attention and allows your mind to rest. The less noise your brain absorbs, the more clarity it maintains. You also strengthen clarity by practicing gentle acceptance. You allow life to unfold without forcing control. When things shift unexpectedly, you remind yourself that you can adapt. Acceptance replaces resistance, and resistance is what fuels mental chaos. Calmness grows when you stop fighting every moment. Journaling helps too. Writing a few lines daily releases inner pressure. You empty your thoughts without judging them. Once words leave your mind, they lose intensity. This simple act keeps your emotional space clean and organized. Deep clarity isn't about never thinking too much again. It's about knowing how to return to calm whenever thoughts grow heavy. Each practice, breathing, pausing, moving, writing, works like a small bridge leading back to balance. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 9 and explore how acceptance and surrender bring lasting inner peace. Chapter 9. Understanding acceptance and inner surrender. Acceptance is one of the most powerful ways to quiet the mind. It doesn't mean giving up. It means allowing life to be what it is without fighting every thought, every feeling, and every moment. When you stop resisting, your mind stops tightening. It becomes softer, clearer, and easier to guide. Acceptance begins with acknowledging your emotions as they are. You don't label them as good or bad. You don't push them away. You simply let them rise, stay, and pass. Emotions lose their force when they are allowed to exist. Resistance makes them heavier. Acceptance makes them lighter. Another part of acceptance is letting go of the need for perfect control. You cannot control how people think, how situations unfold, or how every detail plays out. When you release this pressure, your mind relaxes. You realize not everything needs managing. Life becomes easier to navigate when you allow some moments to be imperfect. Inner surrender is closely connected to trust. You trust that you can handle what comes. You trust that not knowing everything is okay. You trust that uncertainty is a part of living. This trust softens fear and reduces the tension that fuels overthinking. Surrender doesn't remove responsibility. It removes unnecessary pressure. Acceptance also helps you move out of past moments. When you stop rethinking what happened, you allow yourself to step into the present. You acknowledge the past without letting it guide your current thoughts. This simple shift frees your mind from repeating old stories. Another element of surrender is dropping the need for constant answers. Some things take time to reveal themselves. Some clarity appears only when you stop chasing it. When you allow life to unfold, the mind stops forcing solutions and starts observing with calmness. Acceptance also means understanding that feelings don't define your identity. You can feel anxious without becoming anxiety. You can feel sad without being broken. You can feel uncertain without losing direction. When you separate who you are from what you feel, your inner space expands. You breathe easier. Inner surrender grows through small actions. You let go of one unnecessary worry. You pause before reacting. You choose presence over prediction. These small steps create inner stability that lasts longer than any temporary burst of motivation. Acceptance becomes stronger when you focus on this moment. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, just now. When you return to the present, your thoughts slow down. Most worries live in the future, not in the moment. The present is almost always more peaceful than the mind expects. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that life becomes calmer when you stop fighting every thought and start moving with gentle awareness. Through acceptance, your mind learns to rest, and through rest, your inner peace begins to grow naturally. Inner surrender grows when you stop treating every thought like a problem. It is not about giving up. It is about choosing ease over tension. When you allow your mind to soften, clarity appears more naturally. The goal is not to control every feeling, but to create space around it. One helpful step is releasing the urge to fix everything instantly. Many emotions need time, not solutions. When you stop demanding quick answers, your mind relaxes. Calmness grows because pressure fades. Answers often appear when you stop chasing them. Another step is noticing the moment your mind tightens. You feel it in your breath, shoulders, or chest. Instead of resisting, you acknowledge the tension. You say, "This is stress," or "This is worry." Naming the feeling weakens it. Awareness dissolves pressure that resistance would amplify. Surrender also means letting emotions move through you. You allow sadness, worry, or confusion to rise without fear. You understand that emotions pass when they aren't held tightly. They lose intensity when you stop fighting them. This acceptance makes your inner space more peaceful. Stillness supports surrender. A few seconds of quiet, no solving, no planning, helps your mind reset. You breathe slowly and let the moment settle. Stillness shows you that peace exists beneath the noise. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes to return to it. Another part of surrender is letting go of imagined outcomes. Most worries live in the future, not the present. When you remind yourself of right now, fear decreases. The present moment is simpler than the scenarios your mind creates. Softening expectations also quiets the mind. You allow people to be human. You allow days to be imperfect. You allow yourself to learn slowly. Less expectation means less pressure, and less pressure means fewer loops of overthinking. Surrender deepens when you accept uncertainty. You don't need full clarity to move forward. You only need the next small step. Life becomes lighter when you stop demanding certainty at every turn. Breath can help you release heavy thoughts. When a thought feels tight, you inhale calmly and exhale with the intention of letting it pass. You don't force the thought out. You simply loosen your grip. The breath becomes a gentle reminder that release is always possible. Surrender is learned in small moments. You pause before reacting. You breathe before assuming. You notice before resisting. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive and more open. Surrender becomes your inner strength, not a weakness. As this part ends, the next section will begin Chapter 10 and explore how mental clarity grows when you simplify your inner world. Chapter 10. The Power of Inner Simplicity. Clarity grows when the inner world becomes simple. A crowded mind feels heavy, even when life is calm. Thoughts overlap, emotions mix, and small concerns start feeling larger than they are. Simplicity brings space, space brings balance, and balance brings quiet strength. Inner simplicity begins with reducing mental noise. You let go of thoughts that don't support you. You release questions that have no answers. You stop repeating situations that no longer matter. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means choosing what deserves your energy. Another part of simplicity is lowering the pressure you place on yourself. You don't need perfect words, perfect timing, or perfect clarity. You only need steady effort. When you remove unnecessary expectations, the mind relaxes, pressure fades, and decisions become easier. You can also simplify by focusing on fewer tasks at a time. When you try to handle everything at once, your thoughts multiply. When you choose one step, your mind settles. One step removes confusion. One step keeps you grounded. One step protects your peace. Simplicity also grows through emotional honesty. You acknowledge what you feel without complicating it. You don't search for deeper meanings in every emotion. You accept the feeling, understand its message, and let it pass. Honest emotions move faster than hidden ones. Another helpful habit is letting go of unnecessary stories. Not every moment needs analysis. Not every silence needs interpretation. Not every comment needs a deeper meaning. When you stop creating stories around simple things, your inner world becomes lighter. Physical simplicity supports mental simplicity. A cleaner room, fewer distractions, or a small organized space makes your thoughts calmer. Your environment shapes your inner rhythm. When your surroundings feel clear, your mind reflects that clarity. Simplicity also comes from choosing what truly matters. You protect your time, your energy, and your attention. You stop giving space to things that drain you. You remind yourself that not everything is worth thinking about. This selective focus sharpens inner peace. Another practice is pausing before reacting. Instead of responding quickly, you give yourself a moment. That moment saves you from overthinking. It separates fear from reality. It brings your attention back to the present, where things are simpler and more manageable. You also simplify your mind by accepting that some questions may remain unanswered for now. You release the need to solve everything today. You trust that clarity will come when you are ready for it. This trust softens tension and protects your calm. Inner simplicity is not about avoiding life. It is about moving through life with less weight. It is about choosing peace over pressure, clarity over clutter, and presence over fear. When the inner world becomes simple, the outer world becomes easier to navigate. Maintaining clarity during busy days is a daily practice. Life brings noise, tasks, and expectations, and without gentle habits, the mind easily becomes crowded again. Long-term clarity grows from small actions repeated with patience. One helpful habit is creating short mental resets throughout the day. You pause for a breath before starting a task. You stretch your shoulders before replying to a message. These tiny resets prevent stress from building quietly. A few seconds of awareness protect you from hours of tension. You can also keep your mind clear by finishing small tasks right away. When tiny tasks pile up, they create mental weight. Completing a simple task immediately frees space in your mind. Even small progress feels calming. Another powerful habit is reducing emotional multitasking. You avoid thinking about future problems while handling the present moment. You don't mix different worries at once. You allow each moment to have its time. This separation keeps thoughts from tangling together. Clarity also grows when you simplify conversations. You speak honestly instead of over-explaining. You listen without trying to decode hidden meanings. This straightforward approach reduces unnecessary tension and prevents overthinking from entering small interactions. Protecting your energy is equally important. You learn to say no when something feels overwhelming. You step back from situations that drain your peace. You choose environments that support calmness. Your energy becomes clearer when you stop giving it away too quickly. Digital boundaries help too. Constant information overload makes the mind restless. You limit unnecessary scrolling, mute noise that disrupts you, and take short breaks from screens. Even a few minutes of quiet refresh the mind more than you expect. You can maintain clarity by grounding yourself through simple routines. A morning moment of stillness, a mindful drink of water, or a short walk stabilizes your inner world. These small rituals remind your mind of calmness even when the day feels full. Another important step is checking your thoughts before believing them. You pause and ask, "Is this true?" or "Is this fear?" This quick check filters out unnecessary worries before they spread. Most stressful thoughts lose power when questioned gently. Clarity also stays strong when you let go of things that are not yours to carry. You remind yourself that everyone has their own path, their own emotions, and their own lessons. You don't absorb what doesn't belong to you. This releases invisible weight from your mind. Daily clarity is not about being perfect. It's about noticing when your mind feels crowded and guiding it back gently. When you practice this awareness, stressful days feel lighter and your inner world stays balanced. As this part ends, You have completed the final chapter. You now carry a full journey from understanding overthinking to rebuilding calm, clarity, and inner strength.